Hey, Tampa Bay, we're with you for another week here on the Duncan Duo Real Estate Show like we are every Sunday at 10. Talking about the Tampa Bay real estate market when we aren't on air. Make sure to follow us on all of our socials at The Duncan Duo, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. If you're thinking about selling your home, get a quick home value estimate, even if you don't have equity. We've been helping a lot of people recently that are in negative equity positions that have to do a short sale. If that is something that is of interest, we have been doing them for almost 20 years. So DuncanDuo.com, get a quick home value estimate, get an instant cash offer, and get help if you need to avoid foreclosure and sell your home via short sale. I'm excited to have a special guest. Grant, you've been on the show, but it's been a long time. Way back in the day, you were on the show.
Yeah,
it's been a long time.
Probably, maybe pre-COVID.
Yeah,
I don't
for
know.
sure. So it's been
definitely
7 years
it was
for
the
sure.
older iHeart building.
Yep.
For sure.
So Grant has been with me a really long time, and I teased this conversation on the show last week because I joked about the commercial real estate industry and how different that is than residential. And, I don't, I've dabbled a little bit in my own investing in commercial and have a client here and there that you work with, that you personally have worked with, that will look at different, usually like auto, just because it's kind of a passion of mine. And I have a bunch of buddies that own shops and all this. And so, one of the things I think is funny about the commercial real estate industry, first and foremost, is how low tech it is. The commercial real estate industry is like dinosaur-esque. Like, even when you look at the websites of a lot of the commercial real estate agencies, comparing it to residential, it's like, is this still like 2016?
100%. It feels so antiquated compared to the MLS or just to the residential side of things.
And I think obviously there's fewer people doing it. It doesn't have as much growth with like private equity. You don't see as much. You're starting to see more of it, but you don't have as many of these huge brokerages joining and then getting these big tech stacks and being able to invest in tech. And the way the consumer searches. Typically, I think a lot of real estate brokerages kind of evolve their technology to try and keep appealing to a younger audience and a younger home buyer and the high-tech crowd. The commercial really doesn't have to do that because there's not a lot of people coming right out of college in their 20s that want the most updated tech that are buying commercial real estate.
100%. It's completely old school.
Yeah,
like everything about it's old school.
Yeah, it's a lot of guys that have been doing it a long time. They're looking for a good cap rate. They're looking at different things. But the other thing that I find hilarious, and I personally have challenges with this all the time, whenever I have a client that's inquiring about a commercial property, and you've helped a lot of them, and sometimes I'll just reach out and want to ask the agent a question, they don't answer their phone.
No,
they don't answer their phone.
And
it's like if you expect to get, literally like commercial real estate agents, like my experience, and I'm sure there's some of them out there that are going to go on my social media and be like, I always answer my phone, and you don't answer your phone either, Andrew. But I have people that, like, if you call my office, you can get someone on the phone. Like I'll have questions and I'll send an email, won't get an answer, and then 2 or 3 days later, it's like I'm calling and leaving that. It's like days go by. Where in the residential real estate industry, there's such this expectation of responsiveness. And I was talking to a couple buddies about it, and I think it's obviously the access to the data. Like with residential, you have these huge portals that have all the data that most of the time the customers can get the data, and you're dealing mostly with customers that have this high expectation of expedience. And with commercial, I think, again, that a lot of people just don't have that expectation, and I think agents simply don't operate with the same mentality that a residential does because their clients don't think the same way either, but it is a lot of like not answering a phone. And when I have clients that come to us and work with you, the thing that I hear repeatedly is, dude, Grant always answers his phone.
Right.
Like, it's amazing. Like, I've never had a commercial agent that calls me back on a Friday night or, talks to me on the weekend or actually responds. He goes, I usually am like asking them, and then, they might tell me, oh, I'll call you back when I'm in the office on Monday. And and I think obviously you came from residential, so you kind of had that same, you spent years in residential before the years that you've spent in commercial. So you had that kind of customer service responsiveness mindset.
Right. And that's kind of the mentality I took into commercial, because I remember sitting down with you one day and saying, Andrew, we're getting a lot of people, a lot of customer clients contacting us who want to buy or lease or sell commercial
real
property,
estate, and we didn't have an option for them.
And we're outsourcing it to other brokerages,
and then getting the complaints back.
And then I'm getting the complaints back. So my thought was, Andrew, hey, let's open our own division of commercial and let's give those clients the same type of treatment, VIP treatment that we give our residential team. Because I came, like you said, I came from the residential. Yeah. I'm used to working nights. I'm used to working weekends. And that's one of the things I found when I got into commercial is
you actually call me back.
Right. I would call people back. And I remember the first time I called a listing agent to see if I could show a property on a Saturday, he laughed at me. He goes, no, I don't show Saturday. Property on Saturday.
It's like,
we'll do Monday.
I saw, it's funny. Like I saw something not long ago that was really interesting, and it was some sort of influencer or probably a guy that sells courses that I probably don't necessarily agree with everything he said, but one of the things he said was that, like, you know, if you own a business or you're in sales and you're taking weekends off, you're getting crushed. Like, you're getting crushed. And that's not to say that you can't take a weekend off, right? Like, everyone needs to take time off.
Right.
Everyone needs, you know, but like realistically, like if you're in real estate sales, whether it's residential or commercial, the most free time your clients have, because if they can afford to buy the property, they're probably working during the week. The free time that they have to actually ask questions and go out and look at properties, it's on the weekend.
On the weekend.
So how in the world can you expect to like not, you know, respond to that? And so that's been the feedback. I've had multiple clients that, you know, have reached out. We've worked with some automotive clients looking at car dealerships. We've worked with people buying land. You just sold a site that's, I think, going to be used for a car wash I think it's going to be a car wash on water.
It was initially going to be a car wash, but the folks who bought it are going to redevelop it into a school for kids with special needs.
That's right.
So it's
we sold that at, what was that, 1.775. Yeah. So and then we just put a church property, I think it was, under
Nebraska.
Contract.
Fantastic property.
And that was over, I think, $2 million. So again, we you know, and we've done commercial stuff downtown. We've had our commercial division has done land deals above $10 million downtown, helping people buy for development. So we definitely have done a kind of a broad variety of different commercial stuff. And you actually went out and got the education, which I think was probably key. You went and did a lot of training and certifications, and LPT, our brokerage, has their own commercial side, but a lot of this we started before we joined LPT, and they've certainly added some on top of that. But you went out and got the education and then the experience. You shadowed some commercial agents. You went through it, because a lot of people, like even agents that work for us sometimes, are like, oh, I have this client and I want to help him with commercial. And I'm like, no, you have absolutely no idea what you're doing. You are going to step in a hole. You don't know this.
It should almost be a completely different license, in my opinion.
I really do think it should be, because and it is litigious. It's interesting because our brokerage actually has a fee structure that basically responds to the fact that they know it's litigious. And I think a lot of the reason they know it's litigious is because residential agents are doing things that they don't understand and don't know, and you know, causing problems. So I agree with you. I could see a strong argument for why it could be a separate license. But again, the service side of it is what people don't understand, how important that is to differentiate us. And so if you're listening to this and you're somebody that buys commercial real estate and you're or sells commercial real estate, you lease commercial real estate, you can actually contact Grant directly, 813-777-4512, Grant at theduncanduo.com. Again, his direct line is 813-777-4512. Call or text. You can also go to our website. He's on there. You can contact him through there as well, and at our main office. But the reality is that's what we wanted to have as a differentiator. We wanted to say, look, if we're going to start a commercial side of our business, we don't just want to like launch it and not be able to properly help the people. You went out and sought the education. You kind of worked as an apprentice. You learned. You did all these things. But the other thing that I find wild about commercial too, and this happens some in residential, but how often the commercial deals happen from just knowing people. Like knowing people,
100%.
Dude, like your Rolodex, like you know bankers, like there's so many. Like I remember you even had a conversation. We pulled a deal together from somebody you heard about, something you heard about at your barbershop.
Right.
Like that's the kind of like
$7 million auto deal.
Yeah. That's this kind of stuff that happens when you're kind of plugged in, and like a lot of these guys go to these certain places, and then you meet, you network with them. And even the stuff that your wife does in her industry, you're coming across people that are gonna, that are going to have needs for commercial real estate. So what do you think? What are some other differences that you think? Obviously, we've talked about like the tech and the service and the difference between responsiveness, but the complexities probably are one.
There's a lot more to it. So just from basic things like redlining letters of intent and contracts to, which is simple, but a residential agent has
there's no LOIs.
They don't know anything about that. Just to inspect, different inspections. You're doing
due diligence.
You're doing
like
environmental phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 studies. There's just way more variables involved in the commercial side of things than in the residential, and hence that's why the deals take longer to close a lot of times.
And we actually have real estate agents, residential agents at other companies that refer us commercial because they realize, like, number one, they don't want to do a bad job for the client, and then they lose the residential business because they mess it up, right?
Correct.
And it's simply because they also understand that you protect them. So like if you're a residential real estate agent out there, and you're looking for somebody to refer, certainly if you're with LPT, obviously there'd be no reason for you not to come to Grant. But if you're at another brokerage, Grant is not going to compete with you on the residential people. He is going to help serve your clients on the commercial. And if they ever come back to us for residential, we're giving it right back to you.
Absolutely.
We're not trying to take anything from you. We're simply trying to make you look better and do a good job servicing your clients. And we have a lot of agents that refer directly to you.
Correct. Yeah, I have no desire to take anyone's residential clients. That's 100%. Because I know if I do that, you're not gonna call me for commercial business.
And that's your runway. That's your wheelhouse. That's what we want to focus on. And so look, we'll sign whatever, we'll sign whatever you need us to sign. Like our goal is really servicing the commercial side in our commercial division so that you can still shine on the residential, because it does happen. Back, before we had really launched our commercial division, we would have agents that, kind of didn't follow our team structure and was like, oh, I'm going to go ahead and take this. And then they would mess it up. And then the client's like, I'm never going to use you to buy or sell my residential again because you botched this so bad because you didn't know what you were doing.
Absolutely.
And that's what a residential agent risks right now in doing it. And again, if you're a residential agent, I'm sure you refer to commercial agents before, and I'm sure you've been frustrated because I have too before we launched our own. And I'm certain that won't be the case here. If you do refer to Grant, again, 813-777-4512, Grant at theduncanduo.com. If you refer to him, he's going to be responsive because he used to do what you did. He knows how important it is to keep you in the loop. So we're going to be back. We're going to continue this conversation. We're going to talk some more about development in Tampa and what Grant and I have both seen over the 2+ decades I've lived here, and he's been here even longer, with what's happening in Tampa, the infrastructure and all that, after a quick break here on the Duncan Duo Show. So we're back here on the Duncan Duo Real Estate Show talking about the Tampa Bay real estate market, talking to Grant Holcomb, the director of the commercial division of the Duncan Duo team. Grant at theduncanduo.com, 813-777-4512. Andrew Duncan with the Duncan Duo team at LPT Realty. We love helping other real estate agents with their commercial needs, as I talked about before. And Grant is much different than a typical commercial agent because he did residential for years before he transitioned. So he knows the plight of the residential agent. Very responsive. Customer service oriented, works weekends, answers his phone, which again, I joke about that, but I'm not kidding you. Like most of the clients I have that are investing and buying and selling, they'll literally say like, "Oh, that guy's never going to call me back." Like I've called him before, I don't ever hear from him, and it's wild that it's that much of a problem, but definitely not going to be a problem with Grant. So Grant, you born and raised in Tampa, been here
pretty much. I've been here since I was 5 years old.
Yeah, so been here 40+ years. And, I've been here 25 now. And man, Tampa, the commercial development is amazing. What's happening? It's insane.
It's insane.
It used to feel like a small town, and it now feels like a big city. And so we have a lot of clients that are coming in, and they want to buy land, they want to develop, they want to take older properties and redevelop them. They want to put in new structures, and it's growing a lot, and it's leaning on the infrastructure a lot. I will say that I have seen the city of Tampa out recently doing some infrastructure improvements. I've seen some road improvements.
I have as well.
So kudos to the city of Tampa. I know sometimes they get beat up a lot, but I've seen a lot of stuff in my neighborhood and around our office building start to get improved. I'm hoping they get to Interbay. Interbay from Bayshore, from Bayshore to Del Mabry is probably the last. That's the last complaint I have. They nailed Himes, they got McDill, they did Bayshore. They made Del Mabry super nice. I mean, they've done a lot, but Interbay is like going on the Motor Enclave off-road course. I mean, the potholes on Interbay, it's like, I mean, and look, I drive sports cars, and sports trucks. So like I drive it and it's like rattling,
Right.
So Interbay needs to get done. That's the last complaint I have. But no, I have seen a lot of progress with it, and they have to because we're growing so much as a city. But speaking about the development piece, there are a lot of customers out there that have like older properties that they may not realize, the value may be in their land. They may say, oh, I rent it out, or I have this strip center and I have this. Talk about like that, because I think that a lot of commercial property owners don't realize that there is massive value in their land. And I think we're going to see a big uptick in our real estate market in 26 and 27. And some of them are sitting on the land, the structure that really isn't much. It's the land that's worth the money.
Absolutely. I'm seeing it, for example, in Seminole Heights. I mean, there's the church, a church that we just listed and had under contract within a week.
Yeah.
That particular property, the value is in the land. The structure of the building is a 7,400 square foot building. Not a whole lot of value in the building, but the land itself was probably worth, $1.3 million.
Yeah.
So, but the church had no idea. They didn't know. They thought, oh, I just have this old building and it's probably worth X. I think they thought it wasn't even worth $1 million.
Yeah, but it was the land. It was the land because somebody
absolutely the land.
So if you do have an older structure, if you've got a property, maybe it's a rental, maybe it's a strip center. There's a lot of opportunity out there, and sometimes we have customers that'll come to us, and I think this is key too. If you do own some of those commercial opportunities, and maybe you don't want to put it on the market, maybe you're like I've got land or I've got a strip center. Of course, it tends to do better when it's on the market and it has the most amount of eyes, but that doesn't mean we can't facilitate a sale privately. You may not want your tenants to know. You may not want to lose people. So there's plenty of opportunities. We have connections to hedge funds, big investor groups. So talk about how the off-market side of things works with commercial, because it's way more rampant than it is on residential.
Right. So off-market, what I've seen is there's a lot of sellers out there who are open to selling their property. They just don't want to market it. They're like, I'm not in a rush, but if someone gives me what I want on it, yeah, I'll sell it. I don't really see that too much in residential because people live in the house. It's their home.
Where it's probably common would be like either flip type opportunities, flooded homes that could be flipped, or really high end.
Right.
You do see it in the super luxury stuff because somebody's got a $10 million house. Maybe they're a celebrity. Sure. They don't want their house on the market. They don't want it on the news. So they'll reach out to a handful of brokers and say, hey, I've got this, and I'll sell it. So, but you're right. From the majority of our price ranges in Tampa, it's not common.
Right.
But it is very common in commercial. So if you are one of those people, again, Grant can help. 813-777-4512 or grant@theduncanduo.com. Even if you're just looking for a buyer, or if you're a buyer and you're looking for something specific, we can see if we can be a matchmaker. There's times where we've had clients reach out and then we comb our database and say, hey, what's there? What do we have? Who do we know that may have an opportunity here? And obviously you're in touch with a lot of commercial property owners, business owners. We are too, not just with you, but at the company level myself. So there's opportunities for us to find those. So if you're somebody looking for something off market or looking to sell off market, we can help with that on the commercial side. Again, much different than the residential side, because the residential side, there's a lot of restrictions on what we can do with off market. Like even from a standpoint of selling an off market and it's got to go on the MLS. It's got to do this. It's got to do that. There's all these restrictions and codes of ethics, and commercial doesn't have the same regulatory oversight. And a lot of the players are looking to make moves and do things privately.
I agree. I totally agree with you on that.
So again, we're going to continue this conversation. We'll talk a little bit more about residential after a quick break here on the Duncan Duo Real Estate Show. So we're back here on the Duncan Duo Show talking about the Tampa Bay real estate market. I spent the first couple segments talking with Grant Holcomb, director of our commercial division on the Duncan Duo team. Grant at theduncanduo.com, 813-777-4512. If you're looking to buy or sell commercial real estate, you can contact Grant directly. If you're an agent and you want to refer to a competent, experienced, high-volume commercial real estate agent that actually answers his phone on weekends and evenings, then he is your guy. Also one of the funniest guys I know. So if you have a good sense of humor, Grant is legit. Grant could legitimately have done stand-up comedy. I am 100% certain Grant could have done stand-up comedy. So if you enjoy looking at commercial real estate and having fun, enjoying yourself, and you have a good sense of humor, Grant is your guy. Again, Grant at theduncanduo.com or 813-777-4512. So I talked about this last week. JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Merrill, all the big banks are now coming out and predicting 3 Fed rate cuts this year. Each of the next 3 meetings, they're predicting 25 basis points each time, meaning that we'll probably see about a 75 basis point drop in the Fed rate. However, mortgage markets kind of move ahead of that. Most of the 25 basis point in September, because now they're saying it's 99% going to happen, has already been priced in.
Sure.
Because by the time those mortgages fund, it's going to be after that. So we're not going to see 0.75 drop in interest rates from where they are right now, probably more like a 0.4 or 0.5, because the market's going to, kind of adjust as those things become locks. And it's funny, I think during the last election, I started looking at Polymarket. Have you ever looked at Polymarket?
I've been on there plenty of times.
Polymarket's awesome. You can't use it in the U.S. yet. We can use it and look at it, but all the money that's bet, it doesn't have a U.S. license yet. It will, and I'm going to invest in it. I'm doing everything I can to try and invest in it because I think it will absolutely skyrocket when it gets its official U.S. seal of approval. But it basically is rating all 3 of those cuts, and the first one's 99%. The second one's a second cut's 90. Third cut's also a high percentage. So those Fed rate cuts lead to more people jumping off the fence, affordability improving, sellers jumping off the fence to sell because they see the market starting to improve, as well as sellers, residential sellers deciding to sell because now the rate will be a little lower on what they're going to buy. And I think smart money right now is getting ahead of, and thinking about transacting now. We've seen a pickup on the residential side, and I think you could testify to this too on the commercial side, because people see where this is going, and history teaches us lessons. The history teaches us that when interest rates go down, prices go up, right? And I think it's going to be the same residential and commercial. I think we see interest rates drop and capital markets loosen up, and then prices will rise and keep rising. So as a buyer right now, as a seller, of course, the market will improve, and there's always things that could backfire. Sure. There's storms, there's different things, there's your own risk position. But I think the market is going to see some improvements in residential and commercial for sure.
Totally agree. I've talked to several buyers who, they're in the same boat. They're like, well, if rates come down just a little bit, we're ready to pull the trigger. They're sitting on the fence.
Yep.
So,
and if we do see those cuts, they come off the fence.
Exactly. And that's, the conversation I have with them is kind of like you would have on the residential side, like what you just said. Hey, when rates, historically, when rates come down, prices start to trend up. So, it's probably a good time to jump in now, knowing the rates are going to fall.
And look, having done this for as long as I have, for 20 years, success leaves clues. The wealthiest people, some of the wealthiest people that I know bought lots of real estate prior to the big run-ups, right? And then we're able to make big exits. So we know the big run-up comes when interest rates are lower. And again, I think we'll see what I believe we're going to see, and why I think the market will show some signs of improvement for both buyers and sellers. Because a lot of the sellers too, what people don't realize is when you say, oh, well, if it's going to go up, why would I sell? Well, two things. One, because most of those sellers are going to buy something else, correct, right? Even the commercial ones, they're going to roll it into sometimes even something more expensive, meaning that the gain is even greater when they leverage it. So I think you'll just see an increase in activity. I think you'll see the capital markets will be more will be more well-rounded. You'll see more transactions happening. And the reality is it's best to act before that. You want to act before everyone starts acting. We know it's coming. Like, you can look at, again, the only thing, in my opinion, that stops 2027 from being potentially a record-breaking year. 26 will be better than 25, and 27 will be considerably better than 26, because we're going to keep seeing rates head in this direction. We've heard the president say he thinks the rate should be at 1. So that, I think, is a little unrealistic. We would have some problems going right to 1, but again, knowing him, that's part of his deal making. 150% tariffs on China, and we end up about 20, which is great, right? But he does that. It's a negotiating strategy. I see through it. But we know it's heading in that direction. The only thing that stops that in Tampa Bay is natural disaster, or some sort of cataclysmic, either COVID repeat, but then I don't think it stops. Then I think it does the same thing that we saw during COVID. But you could see a short-term obstacle, with the markets. But it's a natural hurricane, natural disaster, war on U.S. land. Those are the things that I think could slow that. Otherwise, 26 and 27, I think, are going to be record-breaking.
They're going to be, I agree. And a lot of folks I talk to in the industry feel the same way, that 26 will be good. 27 is going to be great. And I'll tell you right now, just since January, I've noticed personally my business has increased tremendously.
It has. Yeah, we've done multiple several $1 million deals. And
personally, I've done more since January of this year than I did combined the prior 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's trending in the right direction, and I think it's just going. It's going to keep going.
And I think, again, the smart money right now is saying, look, we can do the math. The maths, it's coming. Why wait until everyone else starts piling in? Because what it's taught us is that when interest rates drop, prices rise. So you're either going to have a high payment now, or a high price of the home later, which will translate into a high payment.
Sure.
So it's again, the smart money right now is getting in. And even if the debt service on the asset is more, or the loan and mortgage is more on the house than you're really comfortable with, we know where rates are going. They're going to go down. We know the data is already pointing at that, but we also know that President Trump is going to put a new Fed chair in. He's replaced one of the governors. 2 of the governors already were leading towards wanting to cut rates. Whoever he puts in is going to be powerful and influential enough that we know rate cuts are coming. And when those come, the real estate market definitely improves. So I always kind of, I use Grok a lot. I throw stuff into Grok.
Yeah.
And Grok is an AI of Elon Musk, part of XAI, part of X, Twitter, kind of in kind of that landscape. And I personally think it's the best AI. Like I love it. It's the cool things you can do. It's responsive. It's fast. It's super detail oriented. And look, I used ChatGPT for a while too, but once I started testing Grok, I think it's better. And so I will ask it and say things like, what do you think is going to happen in commercial real estate? And literally it's saying the same thing we're saying right now. So AI even knows like where it's heading. So why wait until all that activity shows up to transact? Why, if you're a buyer right now of commercial real estate, you should not be waiting. You should lock it up now. And then you can always refinance, do cash out refis. You can always refinance the opportunities later when rates drop. Because we know in lieu of those natural disaster type scenarios, that's where we're headed.
Yep, so totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what do you think, when you're talking to commercial clients, and this is just for my own kind of understanding because I don't know the answer, how often, on the residential side, it's mostly all financed. Like there are certainly some cash deals. There's hedge funds, there's investors, and in the really high end, there can be some cash. In commercial, what's it split like? Is it mostly cash, mostly financed? Is it split evenly? Does it differ from residential in that the terms of the number of people that are financing versus paying cash?
I would say, just in my personal experience, I would say it's pretty split.
Okay.
Okay. I've got several. I've had several cash deals. I've had several finance deals.
Yep.
Obviously, the cash deals are easier for the most part as far as for the client.
You don't have the hoops to jump through.
Not as many. You still have to go through all the due diligence and all that, but you're not having to rely on the financing aspect with the bank. So, but yeah, I would say it's probably split pretty much down the middle.
Cool. And closing times on commercial too. A residential sale can happen 30, 40 days. Set that expectation on the commercial side. It's typically not happening like that.
Yes.
It can, but not typically.
Your due diligence period is usually not, it's way more than 30 days. So, commercial deals can take 3 months to close. They can take a year to close. They could take 2 years. It just depends on the variables for that particular asset.
Yeah.
So it's way different from residential in that regard where, and the other thing in commercial deals is a lot of times the deal doesn't stick together because maybe something goes wrong in in one of the inspections.
Higher cancellation rate.
Higher cancellation. I would say in residential, don't quote me on this, but I would think it's your success rate's probably 90%.
It's 85, 90%.
Okay, close.
We're actually seeing the highest cancellation rates right now that we've seen in a long time because things are tense. I think that'll soften up as rates drop. But it's 85, 90%.
Yeah.
Commercial,
it's probably
much higher.
50 maybe. Yeah. It's there's a lot more to it. So
that makes sense.
It's definitely different.
And I think that's the other reason why a lot of agents don't get into it too. Like, I mean, it's no secret. I've talked about it on the show. I think a lot of real estate agents they're poor at financial planning. They get into the business. They don't have money saved, or they spend the money they make and they don't put money away. And even if they're smart enough, it's hard for them to have enough income, savings, or wealth generated like you and your wife have done to be able to say, you know what, let me move into commercial where I'm not going to get paid for 3 to 6 months or a year.
Could be longer. Could be a year. Right.
Whereas a residential agent's got those checks coming in like every 30, 45, 60 days, like on the regular. Commercial doesn't do that. And I think that's also a barrier that probably keeps some agents out, but it probably keeps a lot of agents out that probably need to be out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because if you are helping business owners and you are helping people buy expensive assets and you can't manage your own financial livelihood to be able to go a while and not get paid, you're probably not the right person to advise someone on their multi-million-dollar assets. Right?
100% accurate.
You're going to guide them poorly because you've made poor financial decisions on your own. And so I think that's probably the one nice deterrent that commercial has that sometimes I wish residential had, because some of the people we got to deal with. The one thing, like the challenge in your industry is that sometimes you can't get people to answer the phone. The challenge on our side of the industry is sometimes you have to talk to these people and you got to help them figure out, like, what are you doing? Like, how do you not know this? So yours, you don't have that obstacle. You can't get them on the phone. We get them on the phone, and then we're like, how am I going to make this deal happen? How am I going to help my client? Because this person has no idea what they're doing. So the barrier to entry is higher in commercial for sure.
Significantly.
So we'll be back. We're going to wrap up with our last segment when we aren't on air. Again, make sure to follow us at The Duncan Duo, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, every social media channel. You can follow me personally You can look up Andrew Duncan on Facebook. I got the blue check, and then the Andrew Duncan on Instagram. And we'll be back to wrap up with our last segment after a quick break here on WFLA News. So we're back here on the Duncan Duo Show. We've pretty much spent the whole segment, the whole show today talking commercial real estate with Director of Commercial Service from my real estate team, Grant Holcomb. If you do have commercial needs, if you've heard things you like about Grant, great sense of humor. Literally funniest guy I know. Could do stand-up, but is a great commercial agent. Grant at theduncanduo.com. 813-777-4512 is his direct number. And so, Grant, you have a client that has a need for a commercial property right now. Go ahead and talk about that. Maybe there's a customer out there or a seller that has it, an agent that has it off market, and they can contact you directly. What is it?
Yeah, great. So I've got a client, a great client who they have an event and catering business, and they are looking for preferably agricultural type land with something like a barn on it, something open air where they can host events. I'd say probably up to 500 people. So we're thinking maybe a 9,000 square foot property. And we're looking, it's going to be tough for ag, but they're also open to just like any type of cool buildings. Like one of the church, the historic church was one they came and looked at.
Got it. So like event center, but they would love ag out in the country. But if it was something that was urban, if it was like it had a cool factor, they could maybe make like a blend between like modern and rural.
So they're looking in a specific area. This is where the ag part may be tough, but they're looking like Ybor, west downtown, west of downtown Tampa, and all through Pinellas County.
Okay.
So again, ag land, agricultural land would be great. If it has some kind of water feature on it, a small pond or lake, awesome. And they're probably looking in the $3 to $4 million range.
Okay, cool. And again, Grant at theduncanduo.com or 813-777-4512. We also have a client, and you've met Victor a few times. We have a client looking to move a speed shop, performance automotive shop, wants to buy a warehouse and some land. So if you have someone out there with that, I want to say he's probably in the max $1.5 million, kind of range. Maybe he could probably go higher, but certainly if you have an automotive type opportunity that could be zoned for that with warehouse, with the right zoning and a good amount of parking, in Tampa is really what his preference is. We can help with that as well. So again, you're listening to the Duncan Duo Real Estate Show when we aren't on air at the Duncan Duo, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. I talked last week about the stats in Tampa, and our prices have, and this is something I think, kind of aligns with commercial too. Our prices have been kind of stagnant. We've seen some depreciation, but I think that if you separate out the flooded products and the condos, non-flooded and non-flood area single-family homes are actually doing well. They're actually still appreciating a little bit, whereas condos are not. And stuff that's in the higher flood areas is still risky for people because there's still a PTSD aspect of last hurricane season, and it's right upon us now. So those markets aren't performing as well. It's really kind of segmented. Commercial's always had like it's unique where maybe manufacturing's doing well, or maybe retail's doing well, or development or multifamily's doing well, and other segments not. Residential sometimes gets grouped into the residential real estate market is doing this. But the storms and then the challenges with our condos is kind of segmented out the products for residential, kind of like how it is in commercial, where there's segments that'll outperform others. Right now, single-family homes or townhomes in areas that weren't flooded or weren't really impacted by the flood or have lower flood risk are doing really well. The ones that, the areas that are not doing well are the ones where there's still that kind of, you'll still see a house here and there that's flooded, not repaired, and condos. So, which I think, again, when you look at real estate stats, whether it's commercial or residential, people make the mistake sometimes is looking at the general and then thinking it applies to everything. Like, you may hear something like, oh, commercial real estate sales are up 27% in Tampa, but it could be one segment that's pulling off.
Right, yeah.
It could be multifamily and development that's bringing in all that money, and manufacturing and retail, are struggling. So those different segments, I think that's where you have the ability to give them the right advice.
Absolutely, yeah. There's so many different segments in commercial versus residential that they're totally different. I mean, they're totally different. Like flex space, for instance, and warehouse, it's still super hot. I mean, when COVID hit, that was what everybody was going to. You had all these e-com businesses and I need flex space. I need a little bit of office, but I need a lot of warehouse. And
I even looked at that. I mean, you remember I went down south of Gandy and Port of Tampa. I was looking like car storage and, I have a car collection. So I was like, oh, but then I thought about it. I know too many people down in Port Tampa that get flooded. I was like, nah, this may not be a bad idea. Foresight was good because that area got hammered.
Right.
But
I agree.
But yeah, there's no question. I think people, don't, especially if they hear those general stats.
Yeah, you can't look at the general stats. You got to look at each segment individually, and get the true data from that.
And I think that's where people can come to you. Like, we obviously give out our DuncanDuo.com website for people looking to sell and get a home value. It's not super accurate with commercial values because it just can't. AI and all the automations haven't figured out the different products.
And it doesn't know things like if it's a owner occupied, if it's an occupied built, an income generating asset.
What the cap rate is.
It doesn't know what the cap rate is. It doesn't know any of that.
So if you need help understanding that, you want to know your value, just call or contact Grant directly. Again, 813-777-4512 or grant@theduncanduo.com. And thanks so much for tuning in, and have an awesome rest of your Sunday, Tampa Bay.